Okay, now everybody's asked over and over and over again how to do a dramatic look on a deep set eye, because so many of you want to do a smoky eye and we cannot do a smoky eye on a deep set eye. Now, I foundationed her forehead and I was going to conceal her eyelids, but then I really decided I want to prove a point to her, show you a point as to why it's so important to conceal her eyelids. Look at Diana's eyelids. Everybody has discoloration in their eyelids, and so many of you don't think it's important to conceal them, but you can see, especially on a deep set eye, by me just beginning to conceal them and get rid of that darkness on the lid, because we all know with a deep set eye, we want to keep the lid light to bring the eye forward. Look straight ahead. You can already see how that starts to help her eye shape. So it's really important to conceal your eyelid. I want to let you see that. So we're going to go ahead and conceal the eyelids before we start to paint. We're then going to set the lid with some powder to set that concealer. So I really want a lot of pop, of course, because it's a deep set eye on the lid. So I'm going to take my cream shadow, put your head up just a little bit, and I'll look down. But don't close, there you go. And I'm going to apply it to her lid. That's because anytime you apply a color on top of a cream, it's going to give you a better payoff. And by doing this, it really gets that lid nice and highlighted.
And you just stay on the lid, you don't go into the crease at all?
Stay right on the lid, don't go into the crease. Yep. And it'll be different size for different deep set eyes. Now I'm going to go back over my highlight shade with powder. Now I'm going to mix a shimmer and a matte. So I touched my shimmer first, my matte second. And the reason why I'm mixing the two is I want it to be more opaque. Jump a little bit. Now I'm going to take, because you know how I like to be able to see what I'm doing, so I like a little bit of lashes on now. So I'm going to do some lashes first. Look down for me. I'm going to curl them. Now, because they're deep set, many times you're going to need more detailed eyelash curler, up and look down, to really get in there, because a regular curler sometimes in a deep set eye does not fit in as well. To give you an example of the shades I used as her highlight, that was my matte beige, and that was my shimmer champagne beige. I do a layer of mascara. Look down. So I can start to see kind of what's happening. Now for drama on a deep set eye for evening, We can get as much drama at the lash line as we want. We just don't want the lid to be super dark. The actual fullness of the lid, because we're trying to bring the eye forward. But we can get dramatic at the lash line and up onto the brow bone. In order to keep the curl, I am using waterproof first. Okay, so I'm going to start with my mid-tone. I'm just going to use a nice matte taupe. Oh, I did get you crap. It's kind of one of those mornings. Okay. So I'm taking my number 11 brush and my matte taupe. I'm going to go right above that crease, which we all know. I'm blending that in to start to push away that brow bone. Chin up a little bit for me. Okay, now I'm going to start to do a little definition on the lid. I'm going to take my number 30 brush and that same matte taupe. Chin up a little bit. And I'm going to start to close in that outer edge. Now you can see I'm patting it on so you can see right where I'm putting it. This starts to add the drama and the shaping, but still keeping the lid light. Feel free to pat on a good amount of it, but keeping it right in the outer corner. Then you're going to take your big fluffy brush, number 28, and you're going to blend towards the center, just on that outer third of the lid. This starts to create shape, and you can see it's starting to close it in and lift it up. Once again, patting it on. Blending it towards the center. We're starting to get our nice shape. Just do as many layers as you want to get some depth, because we're going to do colorful for drama and a nice line. Now what she could also do for drama, because her lips can support it and her age can support it, her children can't necessarily support it. Just kidding. She could do kind of an Audrey eye, which works great on deep set eyes, and then do a dark lip for drama for evening as well. But y'all have all asked for a dramatic eye look for evening. All right, now I'm going to start to create my depth at the lash line. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my number 41 brush and I'm going to push color into her lash line, because I want as much darkness right at the lash line as possible. Open and look down. So pushing it right in between those lashes. Look straight ahead. Look into that camera. And you can see how that already starts to define that eye. Okay, now look back down. Now she has, look at me, some blue and some green in her eyes. So she has hazel eyes. I could be boring. Well, not boring, because I love burgundy. I could be safe and go with burgundy, but I love purple. So I'm going to do a purple eye. Because purple really goes on across the board on a lot of people. You could, if you have blue eyes, just blue eyes, you could do a burgundy for this look. If you have brown eyes, you could do blue, green, you name it. But I'm going to do purple as my wild color for evening. Now, normally I would line right now before I started my accent color. But because I want the liner to be distinctive, a little more distinctive, and it's going to be black probably versus a color because we want drama. Whereas if I was doing this for day and a color eye on you, I could do purple liner to match purple shadow. Okay. But because it's going to be evening and I want it to be a little more dramatic, and I'm going to do some false lashes because it's evening as well, I'm going to do black. So I'm going to do my contour shade before my liner, which usually it's the other way around when using pencil. So now I'm going to start my contour shade. Again, we have to keep it, it's not going to be a dark purple. I'm going to start with a lighter purple so I can bring it further over, and then I'm going to add a dark purple in this outer corner where I can do my drama. By starting with a lighter purple, just to give you an example, it's kind of a sheer iridescent purple. I can go into her inner corner and not darken her lid too much. So I can use that shade. And then I'll go back with a much deeper, darker purple in the outer corner for that drama. So just keep that in mind. When you're trying to create the fun, the evening drama, and you're using color, you might need two shades. Because on a deep set eye, I need a lighter shade to bring in, and where I don't want your whole lid to be purple because that would be just too much purple. And anytime I'm using color, I always do what I just did, which is start with my neutrals to create shape, which deep set eye already has a lot of shape naturally, so I didn't have to do a neutral contour shade. I could just do the mid-tone. But then you build on top of that with your color. So I'm going to first start with my number 30 brush and my sheer iridescent purple. Now I'm patting it on. Remember, when you pat color on, you get more product on. And because this is so sheer and iridescent, I'm really just going to pat it on to get the most out of it. And I'm patting it on about the outer half of your lid. And then I'm going to take my big fluffy number 28 brush and I'm going to blend it towards the center. So you can start to get that nice wash of purple. Just keep doing enough layers to get the color you want, or the amount of color that you want. And you can slowly build to bringing it over as far as you find works with your deep set eye. Because you've got such nice big lid space, I can come over a little further. It's on someone that might not have as much lid space as you.
I've always been a little shy of putting color on my lid, so this is nice to know I can go.
Yes, you can go. I mean, but you need to blend it. You need to have a neutral color on there first because yes, you do have quite large lids. And so you need to be careful that you don't have purple all the way across.
So like 3/4?
Yeah.
That's only about half, and then blend 3/4.
And then, yes.
The rest.
Okay, now you can start to see how that's starting to add color and drama. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. Don't tell your friends. For the darker shade, in order to get it to show more, I am going to layer a cream first so that we get more drama right in that outer corner. That darker shade will really grab on. So I'm just using a little bit of a purple cream. There's tons of different ones out there. Worst case scenario, I could just use a coppery color and then put the purple right on top of it. Whatever you've got, a cream being on there will help everything stick. So make sure when you're putting the cream on, you're still blending it out because you don't want it just to suddenly stop. Also, too, a misconception about cream shadows, because cream shadows are designed to be worn Well, okay, cream shadows are designed to work on top of powders. So I can do cream shadow, a powder, and then a cream shadow on top of that, and it's not going to affect it at all. So never be afraid to apply an eyeshadow cream because the formulation's different on top of powder that you've already put on. I'm going to remove a little bit of color. I'm getting a lot of fallout, and I mean, I'm going to clean this up in a minute. I do kind of need to get rid of a little bit of it for me just to feel like she's not totally been beaten up.
Thanks, my husband will appreciate that.
Your husband will appreciate the fact that you don't look like he beat you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to take my darker shade and I'm going to keep it very, very tight to this outer corner. Once again, patting it on. So I'm just getting it in that outer corner. And I'm going to take my big fluffy brush once again. And I'm going to start to blend it out and blend it up. So you're just keeping that dark to the really outer depths of the eye. And you can see how we're getting drama. Oh, until I really clean this up and conceal this, it's hard with the deep set eye because the whole eye's set back to really see what I'm doing. So I don't want to go too far. I can add more later. But you can already see we're getting a more dramatic evening look. I'm going to go ahead and put a false eyelash on. All right, let me see which one I want first because her eyelashes are quite long on their own. And she has very little space at the top. Now, I'm going to do a false eyelash, which I talked about. And we're going to show me putting it on one in case this is one of the first videos you see me doing. But this is really important when you're choosing false eyelashes for deep set eyes. Because Diana's space, even though she's got a nice full lid, is quite small when she looks straight ahead, I don't want to close in all that brightness that I created because that's bringing that eye forward. You have to be careful if you choose to wear a false eyelash on a deep set eye that you don't want to wear one that's too dense. Because even though this is on the very natural end of a false eyelash, they're wispy, they're spiky, but they're solidly dense. Because of that, I'm just going to lay it on there and I'll glue it on there and let her look straight into the camera. Now look into that camera. You can see how as it starts to close in the eye, you know, it's too heavy, too thick. It's darkening an area that we lightened. So you want to choose one. Either you want to do individual ones, which you can, which are great. They're just not going to pop it as fast. But you can do individual ones, which are nice and would work completely. Or you can choose one that is sparser at the base, because the sparser at the base will keep it from closing it in. All right, so I'm going to choose this one just because it's a little more dramatic than the single ones. And we are after drama after all. So I'm trimming it to size. I measured it on her eye, remeasuring it, keeping it a little more to the outer corner. And I can blend those in really well with her natural lashes, which are good and long. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line the eye. You've got to give the liner, you've got to give the lash a base to lay on. So I'm just going to line right at the lash line. Look down for me. Nice thin black line. Remember, we want to keep it as tight as possible. So just a nice thin black line. I am, of course, going to set it with some matte black shadow. Just going right over it with my number 18 brush. Those of you that watch all the videos, You know I keep saying brush numbers, but that's because each brush was designed specifically for its purpose, and so it's not that you can't find other brushes that can work. I'm just telling you which ones I designed to do that job. Perfect. You can already see how we're getting lots of drama at the lash line. And I'm going to take my lash, and I'm going to color the band using a gel or a liquid. I'm just going to go right along that band. Once again, this helps it look natural. I'm going to take my glue. Apply it to the band.
What kind of glue is this?
It's surgical adhesive, Duo.
Okay.
We have it on our website. I prefer surgical adhesive because some people are allergic to eyelash glue. And although I have met one person, 2 people that are allergic to surgical adhesive, usually you're not. It's what they use to put on bandages when people have adhesive allergies
Oh, okay.
in hospitals. Yeah. Now I'm rolling it while it dries a little bit to get tacky. Not be tacky, get tacky. And then I'm going to put it right on top of that line I drew, going towards the outer part of the eyelid. Because once again, we want the most drama out there. So I guess you could say that you'd like this, if you're going to, when trimming your lash, it's better that it be a little shorter widthwise than wider. And always stay with it until it starts to dry. Remember, it dries clear. That's actually one thing I love about it. Surgical adhesive is it starts out creamy white and it dries clear, so I can tell when it's really dry. And I can also tell when I can move on and don't have to keep pushing it where I want it to stay. Because especially on most deep set eyes, the eye's very round, and so you've got to really round out that lash to get it to stay on correctly. You've got to really shape it to your lid.
I never thought about bending it.
Yeah, that
before
starts to
applying
create
it,
this
and
shape.
that helps.
Yeah. Okay, so now I've cleaned up, foundation, the rest of her face concealed. I'm finishing up my powder, powdering the face, setting everything. Now I'm going to do some definition along the lower lash line, make it more dramatic. And you can see how it's a good thing I stopped when I did, because when we get the lashes on and the liner, it's really giving us enough pop. Look at those eyes, woman. Wow. Okay, so now I'm going to take my mid-tone, which is my matte taupe. Look up. And go right along underneath the lash line to start to create drama and depth. Now, I want some purple down there versus black, but I want it to have a little more depth, so I'm going to use my darker shade. I'm first going to go over it with my iridescent purple, so I get that iridescentness. So I'm going to go over it with my 13, get that little bit of iridescence. I'm then going to take my number 18 brush and take the darker shade of purple, like that, and I'm going to put it right at the lash line. And this is in lieu of any black liner, so you want it to almost look like liner, it'd be a little softer. And you can see how that really lays it in there really pretty. Making sure to be careful to brush off excess that falls. I can't just use one shade.
I can't either. I usually mix a few.
And then just going back along the edge, feathering it out. Then I'm going to highlight the inside corner, the base of the lash line. Blending them where they meet. Now I'm going to start my mascara. First in the lower lashes. Give me the definition I want. Okay. I love this brush. I don't care about the form. Look at that brush. It's so little bitty.
Be very precise.
Yeah, exactly. So it works really great for like lower lashes in your first layer.
That's something I'd like to have because I feel like Mary Kay's mascaras are so, they're more for the top.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get the bottom defined without wearing too much.
Yeah. Now taking and blending the lashes into the false. Look down. Now remember, you want to make sure and get these inside small ones so you don't see where the lashes stop. And then blend all the way across into the lashes. I also prefer defining mascaras, which is why I like Lash Labs the best.
Lash Lab.
Because you can do multiple layers to build the color. Now, because her eyes are so colorful and fabulous at this moment, we're looking in the monitor, we're seeing how fabulous they are. I am going to bronze her, but I'm going to keep the rest very simple. And she has naturally very dark lips, and you know me, with a dramatic eye, I like a pale lip. So I'm going to, in a second, I'm going to erase her lip a bit, because that's more color than I want for this look. Give me a bronzer. Her forehead's crying out for bronzer, although her bangs are about to come back down. It still helps if you bronze as well.
Are you using a matte bronzer?
Always. There's no need to own a shimmer bronzer. Then we're going to take a little bit of bronzer. Just go right alongside the nose for definition. It's my signature. No, the face isn't flat, and so I can blend up into the brow. So now I'm going to take concealer and I'm going to conceal. Oh, I've moisturized her lips before we started, so I've got to blot off that moisture that's still there that I don't need. Now that moisture sat on there long enough to get it nice and moist. And some of you may prefer to keep the color because she's got a pretty color to her lips. I just, for this look, would prefer a more nude lip. And I know you're all shocked by that. And actually, when you nude out her lips, you can see, so you could do either way. You can see where I can now afford a little bit of blush color instead of just the bronzer because I've washed out a little bit of color down there, and I would rather have the color on the cheeks than the lip, just for this look. Smile for me. But once we calm down the color on her lips, once again using my number 73 brush, and then I'm just going to do a nice sheer application. Nice beigey nude. A nice beigey nude. Wow. You really could go out for the evening.
Yeah.
Too bad I have to destroy it for another teaching tool.
I know.
We'll take pictures of it though.
Okay.
Okay. So the important things and the takeaways from this is keep the lid light. Our drama comes from defining a lot at the lash line. If we're going to do bold, let's do color, not a smoky eye. As I said, I'm going to show you because we're going to do an eye shape video where what you can and can't wear for each eye shape. And then that's really about it. And don't forget false lashes. You don't want any that are too intense at the lash line because if they're too thick and too intense, especially on certain deep set eyes, it closes the eye back in. And then I just kept the rest of the face pretty neutral and just fresh and pretty. All right, we're going to go away, give her bangs back, and come back with the finished product. Okay, so I used a shimmer cream on her lid. Then I used I layered a matte beige and a shimmer beige over that cream. I then took a matte taupe and used it as a mid-tone. I then took an iridescent purple and started my layering of my purples first with that. I applied a cream purple to help that darker purple pop more. Then I applied my dark purple and then used black eyeliner, just a little bronzer and a soft flushed cheek, peachy cheek, and then a beigey nude lip.